What I'm about to show you are the accounts of two ex-members of the Connecting Consciousness organisation, namely Amora Steve Melchizedek and Toby Hall. They are the two people, and I confirm the only two persons Simon Parkes has ever taken to court. And he won. He won, as will be revealed, on technicalities. Simon claimed it was the BBC that he was suing. This, as revealed recently on my channel, was untrue and a smoking gun in respect to the trustworthiness of this individual. They state that we have no record of any legal claim being issued by Simon Parkes against the BBC. I must make a disclaimer here. The following materials of accounts I will share in video and in documental format were obtained from what's been shared with me that has been found in the public domain on the internet. I am not presenting the following as proof or evidence of any of the claims therein. I do not know nor have contact with Amora or Toby, and I have not in any way been influenced by anyone to share this information. I am not claiming to believe in anything presented in this information, and I ask for the viewer to take into account and to discern for themselves the truth from this information within this video and from publicly available information regarding this case. Some of this information, particularly the video piece, I have been informed was attempted by the original creators to be removed off of the internet. I am told, although I cannot confirm this, in reaction to threats from the individual that it reports to. I did not find these materials on any website, social media, or private communication with the two individuals whom originally created and released this information.
But it will help. The reason I'm doing it is to help others out there, because I went through a horrendous experience which nearly took about a year of my life away, about 4 years ago. And I mean, I didn't need to go through it, but it taught me a lot. But what I'm realising, there's women that come to me that are going through the same experience, and just me telling the story of my experience sets them free. Has allowed them to move on. So about 4 years ago I moved house, and I was in an area I didn't know, and a lady contacted me, and this lady was doing the same therapy that I was doing. It was quantum healing hypnosis, which is a Dolores Cannon therapy. We put people under hypnosis, go to past lives, speak to their higher self. That's what I was doing at the time, and I was also doing reflexology. And she contacted me and asked if I wanted to connect, and I was like, great. She lived half an hour away, and it took a couple of months to actually connect with her. But within that couple of months, I started to get attacked by shadowy beings, not just me but my son, and we kind of lived in fear for that time. Those 2 months, there would be shadowy beings on the ceiling at night, and they would try to get into the physical body. It was petrifying, and obviously we weren't getting any sleep, so it affected the daytime. It was awful. It was like, oh, wish I knew. Couldn't go to the doctors or the police. It was like, I really want Ghostbusters now. But Ghostbusters was just a movie, so yeah, no Ghostbusters. But anyway, 2 months later, I went to go and see her, and I just spilled my beans, because I thought, right, she's a fellow weirdo like me. She does quantum healing hypnosis, and And in the me telling her everything of what was going on in my life, in my family's life, she said, "Oh, actually, my work colleague is he deals with this sort of stuff, and because a child's involved, you know, he'll help you, like sooner rather than later." So I was like, she said, actually, he specialises because these beings are like shadowy beings, and he actually specialises in these. So I was like, oh my God, the answers to my prayers. Thank you so much. So 2 days later, I spoke to this guy over the phone, and he told me really weird stuff that I was not in my reality at all. It didn't make really sense to me, but I was like, fair enough. He told me that I was a reptilian. I was like, a bit human, but he said I was a reptilian princess, and I'd come to help change reality and all this bollocks, right? He told me a little bit of help how to get rid of the shadowy beings, but he didn't actually get rid of them. He just told me to put cast iron in my bedroom and hope for the best. Anyway, I stayed in contact with the lady because she was very close to him, and I actually got very involved with them. I ended up working for this guy for free, like volunteered work, because he's quite in the public. He's very in the love and light community, conspiracy stuff. So there was a lot of interest in him, and he had lots of volunteers. And but for me, the attacks got worse and worse and worse, to the point that I was having Dracos attached to me, telling me that I'm going to die on that day. I was just living in absolute fear. And I went from within 6 months to, you know, a semi-okay woman getting on with life, my family, and working, to not being able to work, petrified, struggling to live day to day, like suicidal thoughts, everything. It was horrendous. And the last straw was I was raped by a Draco, and which sounds weird, doesn't it? But it was a horrendous experience, and the next day I was just in a state of hopelessness. But I just didn't know which way to go. But obviously, every time I got attacked, I would run to this healer, and well, it's not a healer. And what he told me that it was my reptilian husband that came down to have fun with me. That was his explanation of the sexual attack that I had. That was really helpful at the time. Not so. Anyway, there was an amazing guy, because this healer set up a forum on Facebook, and this forum, there were some amazing people. People would join the forum if they had a session with him, and then they would discuss what ET they were, and if they were a reptilian or a Pleiadian or something along those lines. And anyway, this lovely guy, Amora, set up a psychic protection weekend, and he asked me to go, and I was like, I'm like, you know, I couldn't work at that time because I was in a mess, and he was like, please come, and he gave me a really reduced price, which I'm so thankful for. And that evening I went, it was like in Derbyshire somewhere, a really pretty place, and a lovely girl, Fox, her name is, she came and spoke to me, and I was like a quivering wreck. I mean, I couldn't hold a cigarette properly. I was like shaking like a leaf. And she mentioned the guy, the healer, and said what a prick he was. She knew he was a black magician, which I didn't know at that point. And for some reason, whatever she said to me, I can't even remember the exact words, but it just woke me up. And I was just like, oh my God, like, this is the man that I was running to help, but he was the one that was sending all the entities to me, and the black magic and the shadowy beings and everything. He was like the pinnacle of it all, and I was the one running to him, asking for help. And every time I did, I was getting closer to all the shit that he was sending me. And it was just like she opened the prison door for me, which I'm so grateful for. And then the next day there was a psychic, like I said, Amora sat everybody down. There was, I don't know, about 15, 16 people there, and he just turned to me and said, have you got something to say? Not knowing Amora knew what was going on with me, even though I hadn't expressed it. And I just told my story. about what had happened in the last 6 months, and there was about 6-7 ladies there, roughly, who were going through the same experience with this man, this black magician. And then they, bless them, they really helped me, and they cut the cords, and because he was like, he could read my thoughts, he was into my sexual zones, and my base chakra, not chakra, but all my sexual energy. And then, so they cut the cords, and when they did, the next day he tried to get back in. Like, I felt him right at the base of me, and he was like really trying to get in. And yeah, I had to fight him, but it took time. And there was an amazing lady, Karen, which I'm so grateful for. She's an American lady and lots of experience, and she helped me through it, because it took a few months after that for me mentally and emotionally to come to terms with what had happened, and I wouldn't have done it without her. So I'm just grateful for everybody who was involved in that and helped me get free from this black magician. And I just wanted to share this story because this seems to happen. This, obviously, I'm not a singular case. I mean, just there were 7 or so women there that were going through similar experiences, and I suspect in the love and light community that you've got people who are portraying themselves as these healers, and actually they're black magicians, and are there to manipulate and abuse where they can through sexual energy. And what I've seen is that this gets twisted into the people, you know, with the twin flame thing, that people think is their twin flame and the love of their life, and more manipulation can happen. So I just want to share that, and also how people get hooked in because of the ego, you know, thinking you're a princess of some sort, and really the whole ET thing of believing you're a Pleiadian or a serious being and everything like that, which I've been fooled. When I look at the light bodies in the matrix, you've got the female light. We have 2, so we've got the female light body and the male light body, and the male light body creates the different realities, but the main reality that creates which holds the majority of the light body is this reality. It is Earth, it is human life, and then there's tiny little realities in the light body where you're Pleiadian, you're this and that. You don't need to focus on it at all, but you have more power, empowerment here in this reality than anywhere else. It doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to focus on these sort of stuff at all. What's important is this reality, nothing else. It's interesting, but don't. I think people get hooked up into the what ET I am because they want to be something more than they're not, or they don't want it. They're not accepting themselves, or they're running away from themselves, or something. There's something within them that they're trying to be something they're not, and it's not healthy. And you can be highly manipulated because of it. So this reality is the most important of all. You are the most important of all. Don't worry about the rest.
Dad, out of my life forever. A very big thank you to Fran for making me aware of how the Draco I called Dad had been using me to attack people, and women in particular. I am really pleased to say that I have expelled him from my life, and I'm very sorry for any harm or distress that he has caused others using me. So all these attacks on women, everything he's being accused of, just wash it away, sweep it away, because Daddy did it.
Now, someone that's approaching him feeling that they can get some spiritual guidance or receive some kind of healing on an etheric level, would they really be approaching him if they were fully aware of this entity's ability to work through him?
Amora says in the document, "I do not know for sure what prompted Fran to urge Simon to make this apology. However, I strongly suspect that he had heard too many complaints from women about his astral sexual abusiveness for her to remain comfortable within a relationship with him. That is, without him making some gesture of atonement." Simon, as his wont, however, does not believe that anything he perpetrates above the third dimensional level is in any way something that he has any ethical accounting for on his plane of reality. In interviews, he has mentioned a number of times what happens from the astral or psychic level is not something that can be governed within our legal system, so he is free to do what he wants there. His reptilian aspects, therefore, see no reason to take accountability for abusing women in a way that no prosecution could be forthcoming. In one of his early interviews, he has disdain for his wife getting upset for him claiming to have sex with the alien being for up to 4 times a year, because in his eyes, fourth dimensional beings and above don't count towards hurting his spouse's feelings.
My wife, found out about it and was very unhappy, clearly. That caused a few problems.
Well, was she jealous?
Yes. But it's not on a human level, so I don't see it as wrong.
It doesn't stop there, though, because he has physically behaved with a number of women in adulterous fashion during his previous marriage, and that this just extends his demonstrative disrespect for the feminine very much into the 3D reality. Blaming some possibly entirely fictitious Draco that he calls father for his own disgraceful behaviour is a psychological choice to not take any personal responsibility. By disassociating himself from the emotional impact he has on women that has been said he astrally rapes, he is then placing the victim as the person responsible for how they feel, rather than it being something dependent upon his own actions. Simon, from time to time, has made excuses for his behaviours by saying that he has been, to some extent, influenced by beings or spirits from outside of himself. This is a man who offers to remove demons and jinn from entirely invaded people. Such people are in the most vulnerable category. And here is a man charging £50 for half an hour of his time who seems almost as vulnerable as those that come to him in hope of remedy. This type of work falls within the broader category of healing, and if a professional doctor or any other therapist preyed upon women in that way, that many claims Simon has, they would be banned from their practice. Likewise, if they conducted a consultation, arranged follow-up appointments to cure someone, took payment in advance, and then either failed to do that work or did so in an ineffective manner, there would be an independent investigation and a body that could deal with the findings. I understand that around September 2018, there were allegations made against Simon which affected him publicly, and are said, along with counter-allegations, to be under police investigation. This has resulted in some former supporters of Simon distancing themselves from him, removing some of his media platform opportunities. And in the following release from Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot, there is a strong inference that untoward behaviours attributed to the shadow side of Simon Parkes has been known about for some time.
Amora, your mentioning of Project Avalon brings up Bill Ryan's ex-partner Kerry Cassidy of the very well-known Project Camelot, who does a lot of interviews with whistleblowers and has done 4, I think, possibly, with Simon Parkes, and knows him from doing conferences together, some that I've attended here in England with Simon Parkes, talking at a Kerry Cassidy conference, Awake and Aware conference, I believe it was. You have there, I believe, a recent response from Kerry to this subject, talking about Simon and the activities of connecting consciousness.
Kerry says, "I see that many accusations are being made against Simon Parkes at this time, and some people have asked that I give my own assessment in this regard. First of all, let me say that without sounding too cavalier, that Simon stated from the outset that he was part reptilian, part manted and part human. This continues to be a rather accurate depiction of him and his character. For those not familiar with the dark side of reptilians and manted beings, let me say that my Total Recall interviews with Captain Mark Richards should clarify any confusion as to their natures rather quickly. There are 4 interviews with Mark, and he often talks and writes about the predatory nature of both species. Their history is one of raping and eating humans, using them as sex slaves for breeding and also for food. Now, understanding Simon's proclivities and bloodline, he is what we call Illuminati, and as detailed in many interviews, his parents and ancestors working with and for the power elite. This should have given everyone a clear heads up from the start. With that said, I do understand that Simon has made a strong effort to work for the light and behaves in public. I have met him at several conferences where he spoke as a gentleman and a concerned bringer of truth. This does not mean he is an angel or that he has broken from his past or bloodline inclinations. At this time, I would say that he is working to rebalance himself. However, he may well be or have been taken over more than once, and even now his bloodline makes him vulnerable to possession by the P2 Lodge, dark magicians and others. Please understand this carefully. Like Leo Zagami and others, including many super soldiers, takeovers and possession happen often, and various beings will use human vessels, sidelining the original occupant to step in and cause mayhem and havoc when the human is under attack, as well as feeling adrift or simply in a weakened state. Be aware that they do not want one of their own crossing over to the light, and will work to bring him back using various means and invasionary techniques. Withstanding the psychic, demonic or negative ET walking or takeover attempts is not easy or simple. None of our whistleblowers are angels or ascended beings. They come from the dark side to reveal the truth to humanity as they know it. They may emerge for a brief time, then be taken over or return back to work for the dark. However, this happens. Be aware and understand this is the nature of the world we are currently part of. Use your discernment and do not see them as your saviours. They are doing a service to humanity, however brief. To the journey, Kerry Cassidy.
We here in doing this video are hoping that the exposure, if you like, can help these people who are being manipulated by these beings from accumulating more bad karma for themselves that they will have to deal with in future lifetimes. And we'd like to offer our assistance in every way to help, as Kerry says, in assisting them to move from the dark to the light.
One of the problems that surrounds those who make a habit of energetically attacking and abusing the feminine is that in support of that aim, they will readily team up with others of the same ilk to gang up against those that work to promote or encourage or protect the divine feminine principle. Amora goes on to say in the document, the purpose behind me making this statement is to raise awareness around how Simon Parkes operates and how he targets the vulnerable for energetic vampiric attacks. It is not my intention to make him appear like some supervillain with special powers, but he is most definitely a practitioner of the dark arts with genuine negatively applied magical ability. The danger is that he talks a lot of sense sometimes that attracts a large following, but he also is devious and speaks a lot of nonsense too. What we don't know is if he genuinely believes what he says. My concern is that from what I have observed, Simon is working magical acts from a pathological and narcissistic mentality. This means that he is incapable of taking personal responsibility for his actions and words. Who knows if and when he will stop his activities, or for that matter, how long he has been conducting unacceptable abuses on the astral psychic level. The earliest video display that I am aware of him attempting to exercise inappropriate sexual energetic influence was in a YouTube interview in December of 2014, where Peter Maxwell Slattery was toward the end of a show feeling he had to step in and protect his partner, Solretta Antaria. Peter has subsequently confirmed to me by private message that he was fully aware of what Simon was doing and is capable of on psychic levels against many women. Whilst there is little to be seen occurring in an overt way, Peter's discomfort at what he was feeling is evident towards the end of the interview. It is understandable the emotional pain that a woman must feel after experiencing an astral encounter that involves her feeling physical invasion, suffering unconsensual sexual acts, especially when the delivery of this is not something that she can actively fend off, and then the potential for feeling massively guilty when she realizes that her body has responded with arousal. Many have felt an inability to stop these unwanted astral visits and assaults, and are fully aware of the degree of vulnerability to these and other potential psychic attacks. And so, in deferment to protecting their identities, many have been referred to in this statement by redacted form. This concludes my statement, dated 8th of September 2020. Amora Steve Melchizedek.
And the divine plan is one of freedom, free expression. Free expression, free expression, free expression. It is not one where they want to implant us and they say, you are going to be a worker, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. Sorry, that's not what it's all about. And if anybody tries to force that stuff down your throat, fight it.
Okay, so the Andromedans tell you that the Alpha Draconans are here now. Where?
There are 1,833 of them that have been living underground between 100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here.
Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans?
Yes. And they need to be, they won't eat a dead human, it has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children. You know, and we've been told, you shouldn't talk about that. You know, there are other people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, you know, bull. You know, why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. That's tough. You know, Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? And why should people stay in denial about it?
Now, how are they able to do this? How are they able to? How are they able to? How are they able to do it? How are they able to come up out of this from underground and do it, or do they have?
There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and getting them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconans?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there. You understand? It's about human beings selling themselves out. The echelon attitude here, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of humanity. And sorry, that just isn't right. You know, but it's going to have to be humanity that's going to rise up and take the stand. You're just going to have to turn off your televisions. They're going to have to get in their car. They're going to have to fire everybody in Washington, D.C. that knows and does nothing. And they're going to have to do something. You know, this apathy's got to end. Otherwise, the way we live is going to end. Period. I mean, that's the bottom line. You know, and I'm not coming from a fear space. I'm really quite angry about the apathy and the fact that, you know, when people give lectures and try to tell this, people want to stand up and fight with them. Look at what's happening around us. The indications are everywhere. Everywhere. The truth is now an obscure thing. You know, the lie is the norm. There's something wrong here. What's wrong with this picture? Sorry, I'm getting crazy.
No, you're not. You're expressing frustration, I think. Why, aside from the carnivorous aspect to the Alpha Draconans, why else are they dangerous to humanity?
Because they don't like us.
And what are they willing to do with humanity?
Eat us. There's no need for us. I mean, look at where we are. Look at us right now as a civilization, as a society. Okay? They don't need anything. They have all this technology that they want. We can't really offer them except maybe work, do some work for them. But they don't need all of us to work for them. They don't respect human life in any way whatsoever.
But I had a genuine offer to go to the US, and I accepted it. And I will just say this because I haven't really talked about it much. 3 weeks after that, I got another offer to go and work in Washington, D.C. Apartment had been made ready. Even the 9 cats were told, they actually said, you can bring the 9 cats. And they laid out what it was, and they said, you're going to work for GCHQ, and then GCHQ will hand you over to the CIA, and you're going to work for the CIA.
He said that his grandfather was well known in MI6 in the UK intelligence service for his work during World War II, and he was very proud of him, and that his mom also worked for the NSA and also the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, and that he wanted to carry on that purpose in life. And if he couldn't do it, then he would have failed his life purpose. There was an offer from the Central Intelligence Agency where him and I would work together. And the specifics of that offer is that each of us would be paid about $250,000 a year. There's quite a few other details of that. I have written up a dossier on Mr. Parks, and I've got affidavits and evidence regarding his activities working for that agency that I don't want to disclose today, and I can tell you why in a couple of minutes. I've received over a dozen different death threats over the last 1.5 years, 2 years. And what I've done as insurance, I've sent that dossier out to over 100 light workers. So I know all the details, and I said, Simon, look, I can't do it. I didn't work this hard to get to this point in life. And they had represented to me that they were white hats, but they were very dark hats, and I couldn't do it. But he wanted to do it, so I wished him well.
Now, this wasn't a joke. This is a real job offer.
It was a real job offer at CIA that is behind the most advanced spyware technologies in the world. Is the plan to use the CC organization in a surveillance program, maybe as a tool for the CIA?
Kevin, can you just briefly tell me about your channel?
Yes, so I've been doing a talk show for a number of years called The Moore Show. If you just go onto YouTube, just type in The Moore Show or The Kevin Moore Show, or pop up my channel on there. And I've been interviewing people, within the paranormal, esoteric, spirituality kind of stuff, getting a bit more into the true crime, and pretty branching out a bit more into real life inspirational type shows as well. But I, with having an interest in the alternative, and also working on a documentary called Captain Mark Richards, which is looking at people within the industry that put out information that's not true, basically. And Simon's part of that docu-series, so that's how we got connected almost a year and a bit ago right now. And at that time, obviously, Simon had a court case going where he was taking 2 gentlemen to court for defamation. And I'd been doing a lot of research on Simon along with a guy called Tap at the time. That research is still ongoing because the docu-series is still ongoing that I'm putting together. I looked at a lot of different things when it comes to Simon, but I did get to sort of get my teeth into the case a bit. So if you've got any questions you want about the case, I can go back to what I remember or what I recall, back in October of last year, of what was said and where that case stood.
Certainly. As you said, a year or a year and a bit ago, we did 2 interviews, in fact, and then we did a further interview roundtable with some other personalities. You mentioned Tap, who is called the Alethea Project on YouTube. Search him. Plenty of material there, which was very interesting. You mentioned your Captain Mark Richards project docu-series, which you've been working on for quite some time, and this is to basically it is similar in line to kind of what I've done a lot of on my channel, which is looking into people and their lies, which people are believing. And he was connected very much with Kerry Cassidy, and people would have already seen in this video Kerry Cassidy's statement on Simon Parkes, where she talks about Captain Mark Richards also. And yes, this court case is so from the materials that people have watched that I presented already, which I found in the public domain, we realized that these people were the two people that Simon had taken to court. Now, Simon hasn't, not that I've seen, said much about this case pertaining to these two individuals. He's talked very much about taking people to court. In fact, he talks about taking the BBC to court, and that is the only way I've ever seen him comment on sort of this case is under the guise of suing the BBC, which he said way back in I think it was August 2020, and he said if people want to donate to his cause, David versus Goliath type cause, now would be the time. And then recently, only a few months ago, he said that he took the BBC to court and that he had won. And as I'd shown at the beginning of this video, the BBC claimed that there's never been any court action taken against the BBC by Simon. Do you know anything about the fact that he has supposedly sued the BBC? Do either of these two people in the court case that you are aware of, are you aware of them working for the BBC?
No, as far as I know, there's no BBC connection. I know the statement, I've given you this as well. I know what was initially presented as a charge against the two defendants. And I don't remember in any of the initial preliminary stuff that Simon put together for the case that anything to do with the BBC was mentioned. And I've spoken to these two gentlemen individually, well, more Melchizedek's than Toby. And nowhere in those long conversations that we had was ever, anything about the BBC mentioned. So I just don't know where that connection is coming from. It's pretty like you've said, he's mixing in, bits and pieces from other things just to put people off the trail in a sense. And yeah, I mean, it makes no sense.
We do know that the BBC did do a BBC Radio 4 did a sort of interview piece around the 5G bioshields, in which they did talk about Simon Parkes. As well as he has, by his own will, gone on to mainstream media, various shows, etc. Like, is it the Good Morning Show?
That's
or
right.
With,
That's right.
And also the Channel 4 documentary made around confessions of alien abductees. But the Channel 4 BBC Radio 4 investigation was around the scam, the 5G bioshield scam.
Right.
And Simon Parkes was not talked about in the greatest of lights around that because he was selling them. And I did assume with the timings that this was the BBC publication that he talks about that's been repeated on air that he was taken into court for. I can't verify that, but that's the only BBC publication of anything to do with him that I could find. And like you say, could be mixing this and his outrage around that and not wanting people to view that with what was actually going on and what he was actually doing with the funds that he perhaps seemed to ask for to sue the BBC. So with those funds, potentially with those funds, he talks about how he dug deep into his pockets to start these court cases, but would need extra help, for which I do know for sure many people in the Connecting Consciousness group had provided for him to take on that pursuit, and some of them seem to be quite annoyed at this point that they have not seen anything solid to do with where those funds have gone. But
yes,
what we do know is that he did take two individuals to court who we don't, as far as we know, believe to work for the BBC, and there's nothing in anything that we can see that
No, nothing.
pertains to them ever working for the BBC. So as far as I'm aware, it's rubbish. However,
Yes.
what did he do? So with he went on to sue these people. Why did he do this? What was the whole court case about? I know I've shown materials of them both talking, so people can come to probably a conclusion of why he was so outraged to take them to court. But what exactly did it outline that he was taking them to court for?
Well, there's a number of points in the initial court case, and it really boils down to defamation and defamatory statements which were made in that video. Now, that video was only viewed, I believe, by a handful of people. It really didn't go anywhere, right? And it was taken down, pretty soon after. So, I mean, I guess it's the potential of what could have come from that video as well. So, in the end, what's happened here is that Melchizedek's really didn't have any representation. Toby did. It was all left to the last moment, really, in Toby's representation. They thought they could take they thought they could do this by themselves, I guess, and represent themselves pro se. And I think they did a bloody good job to get as far as they did as well, because they put so much evidence together in their cases, in their defense, and so many witnesses who had never come forward before came forward to give their voice about things that they had experienced and issues that they had with Simon, and for once it was going to go on court record, some of these people's kind of horrific experience, some of them of what they'd could never talk about, and had been threatened really by Mr. Parks to never go public, or there would be he would sue them basically for defamation, which is what he did with these two. What happened was a lot of the all their evidence was trucked out by the master in the end, and it was the actual defense the court judge found it to be unlegible in some respects, and it couldn't make sense of some of the submissions, even though when I looked it over and other people looked it over, it wasn't a bad job for people that went pro se. And unfortunately, it wasn't so much just that, because they could have resubmitted and they could have put a better case together, not a problem. But they actually missed major deadlines, and because they missed these major deadlines, that was the real kick, really, as to why they really lost the case on a technicality. So it was really lost on a technicality. Had they gone with the submission dates, and had they resubmitted, and getting a lawyer, as we call it in the States, right? It costs money, doesn't it? Getting a barrister in the UK or a solicitor, it costs money. Yeah. And Simon had the money. Simon's costs were in excess of 40K, and I believe when it got to October time, with Victory being in his possession, in a sense, there was about a 50K cost awarded to him, and an apology. But of course, that's got to be collected. I mean, just because he's been awarded a figure does not mean he's got the money in hand. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and I think that's why the case is still ongoing, because obviously that whatever the fee eventually is, because I'm guessing that will get squashed a bit. Do you know what I mean? Or reduced a bit. Yeah. So that's what happened, and it's sad.
It is sad, and like you say, it sounds like on a technicality it was lost, missing deadlines, and it's probably a very frustrating case for any judge to look over. There's a lot to say about this, especially with the various witnesses or testimonials rather coming forward.
Yeah.
I will say myself that I have been contacted by many people, many women, to tell me of similar such experiences around what Toby and Amora did talk about it in their interview. These were completely separate from that interview. They never mentioned that they knew these people. They never mentioned, and you know, this video and the supporting document, which you know, I've investigated in this video. You know, this was in 2015. This was seven years ago. We've got people talking about experiences that happened in a large time frame, but you know, also very recently, and could possibly have no idea. And I'm sure that many of them would have mentioned to me around all of this other stuff which has been uncovered. It seems like they're completely disconnected from this happening. Like I say, not many people saw this material. They probably have no clue what happened back then, and yet they are experiencing this, you know, themselves, or they claim to be experiencing this themselves. Very, very similar accounts, and they've been brought forward to me. Most of these people do not want it to go public. They just wanted me to be aware.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you've had perhaps similar.
Absolutely the same. I mean, you know, anyone that I spoke to did not want to come forward, and it was brave of those who did come forward. You know, on behalf of the defendants, and they, you know, like I said, they really felt that their voice was going to get heard, and I think it, you know, I think in the end, you know, they realized they'd done the right thing, even though you know, it never got presented as any evidence in the court case, and it never made its way into the paperwork. You know, maybe one day, you know, because there's another court case going on right now with him that was started in April, I believe it was, which is just incredible. And who knows, you know, what's going to happen, and maybe these people will get a voice one day.
Okay, so I mean, this is funny. This is interesting because I've not actually discussed this with you. However, Ted Ma, who I interviewed recently, he firstly went on to say that he was offered, which you guys will have just seen in the videos that I've just shown, where Simon talks himself about the fact that he was offered a job within the CIA. And Ted Ma says that he was offered it. So in fact, he was firstly told to extend the offer to Simon, and they were told to work together for the CIA. Ted claims that Simon went on to work for the CIA, and Ted said, "No, I'm not going to do that." Those are his claims, but what he also went on to say is that he had many women come forward to talk about psychic attacks and other things of the, you know, many women coming forward. And he also had explained to me that he had been contacted by many women who have started a court case, that of which I could not verify was real. Many women coming together to file a new case of legal action.
No, no, I've not myself. Most of the women that came forward were actually obviously very scared of coming on and talking about it, basically, in the first place, you know, due to the threats that he'd made to them. And I think it's interesting, the video that you did put out with Ted, because obviously, you know, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but obviously, you know, having been made that offer by someone who was a no one, who was a faker probably, right? And for him to go on and believe it was true, right? Simon, I'm talking about, and actually carry it forward. It's just a joke as to you know, how silly it all is, and what they'll fall for, in a sense. It just seems to be one con artist, you know, conning another one, in a sense. That's my take on it. But you know, yeah. But what was interesting, whether you've mentioned this or not right now on this show, is that obviously on Friday, Simon Parkes's YouTube channel was taken down and terminated by YouTube. And for me, the victory is that obviously new elderly people that aren't able to discern are now saved from misinformation, medically, financially, and just in general. So, you know. Yeah.
It's a very positive way to look at it. I have announced this on my various socials that this happened, and my thoughts around this. My thoughts around the fact that I don't believe his channel was terminated the first time round, and the fact that I don't believe, although, you know, it could be true that it was terminated by YouTube, that I have a feeling that he's perhaps taken it off himself the second time round. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, we'll never know, will we? Yeah.
But you know, it's a very positive way to look at it, that you know, vulnerable people won't see his materials anymore. However, we do know there's a history of pop-up channels coming up and mirroring his videos from BitChute, Rumble, and putting them on YouTube. And so hopefully those channels, won't, continue to do so. But
they don't take channels down for no reason, and you've really got to be, you get a lot of warnings, and I'm pretty sure he had a number of community strikes. He was well aware that of the information that he was putting out, and he didn't have to do it, and he continued to do it. So but who knows? I mean, look, he's got a massive following still through Connecting Consciousness. And if you just look at Alex Jones as an example of someone that was deplatformed, and just, how much and how well they can do from continuing to do what they're doing. I don't think he's going anywhere. So, but yeah, that's just my take.
We'll see if he's not going to be going anywhere. There's only so much that other people can do to highlight.
I think he's allowed a voice, right? I think we all are. But I think when it becomes dangerous, and you're hurting people in a sense, that's when that's when you cross the line.
And do you believe that talk about danger and hurting people, do you believe that, I'm not necessarily asking you whether you believe in the stuff that Steve and Toby had put out there or anything around Simon? I'm asking you in general, do you believe that these attacks are possible? I know that you do a lot of investigation into sort of astral realm and things like that.
Well, I suppose it all comes down to, do you believe in black magic? Mm-hmm. And I honestly, maybe it comes down to, if you're going to give something energy, you have some belief in it, then maybe that's going to manifest. Is that from that perspective, maybe it's possible, right? It was so. I find it very difficult, right? I find it, how is that possible that he did what he did? But then how is it possible that all these women are saying the same thing? That's the crazy thing about it. That is really, and can you go out there and do what they did? And perhaps they did. Perhaps the defamatory wasn't in so much the astral remarks, but maybe more in the adultery side of things. Again, that would have become very clear in the actual finalization of the court case, which we don't have the sort of final sort of verdict as in a sense, because it's it's available, but it's something that you've got to get, and it takes time to get that stuff.
Absolutely. Now, for anyone watching, you can do your own investigations. I will leave a link in the description where, to get you started, if you want to have a look into this court case. Kevin, have you got any kind of final words to say around this court case, the happenings, the material I've shown in this video, or just even what, your views on Simon?
Yeah, well, thank you for what you're doing, mate. I'll say that to begin with, because it's not an easy road to be doing what you're doing and be going public with this. So, hats off to you for what you're doing, right? I think it just goes to show how cocksure he is of himself when he's taking someone else to court right now, at such a massive expense as well. We're not talking little money here, right? He's not even got the 40K back or the 50K back from anything to do with the first case first, and yet we're on the other case, right? It's all costing, right? So money is not a problem. And I think, this could have been sorted out in so many different ways, right? It didn't have to go this far, right? He calls himself spiritual, and yes, no one should be attacked in a sense. And, they could have come to an agreement where it was taken down and this didn't have to go so far. But I think when if there is a narcissistic side here, then different things come into play, right? So I wouldn't have done what he's done, but I just think it's the only people that win in a court case is the lawyers, right? So what's he really got to hide? I think that's also kind of telling a little bit, isn't it? If this was me, I would just come out and say, none of this is true. blah blah blah, whatever. But to go down the road he's done, to shut people down, to make injunctions against people and seal this subject off in a sense, because that's what he wants. Yeah, that does say a lot, doesn't it? Really, about what's really going on. Yeah,
absolutely, and also for Simon seemingly to threaten legal action consistently, and has done before. He's sort of tempted that he would do so to yourself, I believe.
Yes.
He has proclaimed on many of his broadcasts that if people are going to talk about him in ways that he doesn't like, he's going to sue them. To consistently threaten that he's going to sue everyone around him, for me, doesn't show someone that's very confident in his truth. And
well, no, I mean, you've only got to look at his research, what he puts out there. I'm sorry, but if you go back to any of his past shows, you tell me one time with anything that he brought up actually came true. Zero, I'd like to say. Less than one. There's just nothing that's come true. It's all just just a load of nonsense, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's not someone that I would want to follow.
We're talking about other court cases, and of course, you've got the one that with Steve Wand, who basically came on my show to talk about him being fired and the fact that he's been taken to court. And so that's still ongoing, and I'm sure there'll be an update that I can put on my channel to where that's gone so far. What I can say is it will be interesting to see the outcome, because I can only see two things that are going to happen. Either one, he backs down, Simon backs down and apologizes, as has been asked, and pays a lot of damages, or he continues, and there will be a lot of discovery through the continuation of doing so, and it'll only be driven by his ego, because I'm sure his lawyers are probably telling him that he should stop, because he's not going to win this one. So more to come on that.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you for putting that interview out with them as well. It's just fascinating what's going on. I can't believe it, but there you go. Yeah. So
I mean, Steve could have been anyone, any coordinators or even members from currently in CC watching this. It could have been you. It could be you. It could be you next. You could be fired. And like so many people that have come forward, and it seems so silly to say fired from a voluntary organization where you put so many hours and you don't get paid, but it could be you next. You could be cut off from all of your members, and there's a trend of this happening, and there's so many people that have reached out to me that's happened to them, and still even today someone came forward, I've been kicked out. I think it was a member, but I've been kicked out because I had a cup of tea with some members and we weren't allowed to meet. Sounds like a cult to me. Sounds like interesting stuff.
Kind of ticks the boxes, but yes, it is. And I think the people that are part of this are beautiful people. You like as you would say as well. And there's nothing wrong with the coming together of people of like minded. Absolutely nothing. But there is something wrong at the core here.
The topics of this video are quite controversial, and as I say, it seems to line up with a lot of testimony information that I've been given before. I've been sitting on some of this information for a long time and wanting to investigate further, and I do not put out this information lightly. As I said before, I do not know the people that have put out this information. When it comes to subjects such as the astral realm and people being harassed or abused in such a space, it would be very difficult for me or anyone to verify that. However, it is important to note that when many people, disconnected, a lot of them, come forward to say similar things, it may be worth looking into whether or not you believe in the astral realm, whether or not you believe in reptilian aliens, and things of that nature, this information is still, for me, compelling, and I feel it is appropriate to report on and ensure that people are warned, or at least informed of this, which the people who originally put out this information, I'm sure, was their goal before being seemingly silenced.